July 17th more. We sprinted down Bay Street, no idea which way we were going or what for. Down steep asphalt hills, in and out of cars and buses and trolleys. Through sidewalk traffic of business suit dudes, packs of joggers, camera-strapped tourists, women on cell phones pushing double-decker strollers. Some people turned to watch us run by, and I wondered what they saw. Just normal kids running, or group homers, escaped prisoners, and how I'd become a part of what they saw when just 4 months ago I was sitting on a couch back in Stockton with my big bro, breaking apart Oreo cookies, eating them icing first like any other regular kid. Your whole life, man, it can change in 1 minute. Mong led us down to this part where there were a bunch of piers along the water. I looked back and there was nobody chasing us, but it felt like we'd be caught any second, by Mei or the cops, or the night watch guy, or Jaden. I couldn't calm down about us getting caught and being sent back to juvie, and it's all because of Mong. We headed down Pier 39, zipped around a grassy hill where homeless people were lounging with trash bags full of cans and plastic bottles, and onto this wooden section that overlooked the water where seals barked and swam around with each other or perched on big floating crates. We leaned against the fence to catch our breath. Mong started coughing again, and this time he even went down on one knee and puked right off the pier into the water. Me and Rondell looked at him, and I said, "Yo, man, what's wrong with you?" He didn't answer, didn't even look at me. "What happened back there with your cousin?" I said, tired of him not answering people. "Why'd we just leave her? She said she was still going to take us." He just stared at the seals. "P.S., I said, ready to smack the little smirk off his face. "I ain't just gonna follow your dumb ass wherever you want to go. You already fucked up our ride to Mexico." Mom looked up at me more serious and said, "What I do?" "You heard me," I shot back, staring dude down. I knew I was about one step away from something happening, but I pointed at him anyway, said, "I'm gonna tell you now, man. I ain't like everybody else at the damn lighthouse. I ain't scared of some Chinese punk bitch." He leaped at me, tackled me onto the wood, and smacked me in the jaw. But like I said, this time I was ready for it and snuck in a punch of my own. Socked his ass right on one of his cheek scars. We wrestled around on the ground, holding back each other's fists, trying to claw at each other's faces and kick, but Rondell took both of our foreheads in his huge-ass hands and pushed us apart. "Stop it," he yelled. He shoved me back like 15 feet and pinned Mong to the ground, his face right up against the damp wood. "Just stop it," Rondell shouted again, pointing back and forth between us. Mong smiled and puked again, right in front of his own mouth. Rondell backed up a little with this grossed out look on his face. He checked his hands to make sure no puke got on him, and then he looked back and forth between us. "Come on, man, y'all gotta stop it. It ain't right." Mong laughed. "Nobody can change my mind." "Yo, nobody gives a shit about your mind," I shouted back. "It ain't right, though," Rondell said. In the distance, a group of seals were scattered around the wooden crates, barking every once in a while and nosing each other in the stomach. They had no clue who I was or how something inside me was changing by the minute, getting more and more angry and confused. They didn't know how I was becoming what people probably thought if they ever read my file, saw what I did. I stared at the seals for a sec, trying to decide what I thought about that, because I was actually happy Mom was sick. I swear to God, and what does that say about me? Here's the thing. Maybe it's a waste of time to fight what's in your file. Maybe you're destined to end up being that person no matter what. For some reason, I pictured Mei Lee coming out of the bathroom right then, seeing our empty table at the pizza place, her face all surprised and sad. Maybe it was best that she wasn't sitting with me in the car, her hand on my leg, my girl. She probably wouldn't like who I was anyway once she got to know who I am now. "You stopping it?" Rondell shouted at me. I turned to look at him but didn't answer. "Are you Mexico?" "Whatever makes you happy," I said. He looked at Mong. "Are you?" Mong smiled big. He put his right hand in his own puke and wiped it all over his face and then spit in my direction and laughed. "Jesus," Rondell said, jumping away from Mong. I crinkled my face up and told the guy, "Yo, man, you're disgusting." Mong stood up, still laughing, and leaned against the fence to watch the seals. He wiped his face on his sweatshirt, spit in the water. Rondell looked to me. But I just did the same thing as Mong, stood against the fence, a ways down from him, so I didn't have to smell his puke. Rondell looked back and forth between us for a minute or so, and then he went up to the fence too, and we all just stood there staring at the water, nobody talking. While we stood there, I watched all the different people who came to watch the seals. Sometimes a whole family would step up to the wooden fence overlooking the water. They'd point at the seals and laugh or say how cute they are. The dad would put on a voice and pretend that the seals are saying stuff, or the mom would position her kid in the perfect spot and snap a digital picture with the seals in the background. And then they'd all hover around a little camera screen joking about the kid's eyes being closed. Or some old homeless-looking dude would just stand there solo like us, watching, all by himself. Dirty-ass flannel and beard blowing around in the wind. But after a while, they'd all get tired of watching seals and move on. Except me, Mong, and Rondell. We stayed there for like 2 hours, not saying shit, just standing next to each other, thinking our own thoughts about how we got here and what we were going to do now. I kept thinking how Jaden was supposed to take us to San Francisco in a few days anyway. We could have just waited for a ride. Or how back in the day, my Pop promised to bring me and Diego here for our first time, just as soon as he got back from the war, but he never got back from the war, so we never came. Well, here I am, Pop, I told him in my head. I finally made it to damn San Francisco, all on my own, too. Ain't you proud? Mom wiped his face on his sweatshirt again and stepped away from the fence. He seemed totally back to normal, super calm, like nothing even happened between us. In a mellow-ass voice, he told us how we should go south toward the border, along the coast as much as we could, because then we could sleep on the beach where nobody would bother us. Me and Rondell straightened up, too. Monk started walking back the other way, down the pier, and me and Rondell just sort of followed him, for now at least. I told myself I'd go along with the guy until I came up with a better plan. And then I just let out on my own, roll solo. But for now, at least he knew the city better than me. As we walked, Rondell tapped Mong on the shoulder and said, "Hey, Mong. Yeah, we still trying to get to Mexico, right? To them fishing boats?" "Yeah," Mong said. "Good." Rondell turned his big afro head my way and grinned, said, "'Cause this whole time we was sitting there in Mexico next to them seals, I've been thinking about that, how I really want to be a fisherman now." "That right?" I said. "Yup." "Well, you already look like a fisherman, Rondo. You got that part down." Rondell looked straight ahead and got this excited look on his face. "You really think so?" "Yeah, man," I said. "Most fishermen are big and black, just like you. And they got nappy-haired afros like yours. Almost all of them, actually. All you're missing is a damn pole and bait." Mong looked at me out the corner of his eye, and it almost seemed like he was grinning at what I said, which was so weird, man, considering we were just in another fight. I'd never met a person who could go from one extreme to the other in such a short amount of time. I bet Lester used to take him to some counselor who specialized in split personalities, schizophrenics or whatever, 'cause Mong definitely had some advanced shit like that. "I bet I can catch the biggest ones you ever seen," Rondell said as we kept walking. "That's why we're in Mexico." I looked at Rondell and I couldn't help it, man. I sort of cracked up a little. Inside, I don't think I'd ever seen a dude that his size look so happy. And just 'cause I told him he could probably be a fisherman. We backtracked the other way, on Lombard this time, took it all the way to Fillmore and cut over toward the water. I had no idea where we were, but I read all the street signs like my old man taught me. It wouldn't make sense, I knew, but it was a distraction and made me quit looking over my shoulder for the cops every 3 seconds. We turned on the marina and walked along this nice park where a bunch of white kids were playing soccer and wiffle ball, and the grown-ups were bunched together in blankets, talking and cutting off hunks of cheese to put on fancy pieces of bread. And this giant red bridge towered over everything in the background. It was that famous one in all the postcards and t-shirts about San Francisco. I'd never seen a bridge so big. We stayed on the road all the way until it turned into Mason, and then Mong had us cut through part of the park called Christie Field, where hippie-looking people were playing frisbee and hacky sack with no shoes on. We walked out onto the sand, and then Mong stopped cold and dropped his bag. He wiped his mouth with the arm of his sweatshirt and stared up at the bridge, which was right in front of us now, a huge mass of steel and cement and wires. It made you feel like an ant. We stayed like that a while, him looking at the bridge and me and Rondell looking between it and him, none of us really saying anything. Eventually Rondell sat down on this piece of driftwood and stared out at the water. I sat down too, ran my fingers through the sand. Mong squatted next to us. It was kind of disturbing us just sitting next to each other, like nothing ever happened between me and him just a while ago. I still felt the sting of his punch on my right cheek, the ringing in my ear. But at the same time, if he was really schizophrenic like I thought, it would make mad sense, right? I thought how there were actually 2 Mongs, Psycho Mong and Mellow Mong. Right now he was being Mellow Mong, and it was only the other one I actually had the problem with. He pointed up at the bridge and said, "You know what that is?" "A big-ass bridge," I said. Neither of them laughed, though. "It's the Golden Gate." Mong said. Oh, yeah, I said. I heard of that bridge. It's famous. I heard of it too, Rondell said. I patted him on the shoulder and said, Sure you have, big guy. What you mean, Rondell said. All I did was laugh, so he looked back at the bridge and tilted his head a little, said, Why's it all red like that? I gave the guy a little round of applause. I don't even know why, man. I guess I get bored and like to mess with Rondell for some reason. Yo, nice work, dog, I said, patting him on the shoulder again. And here everybody's been saying you ain't got your colors down. He brushed my hand away, said, I know what's red and what ain't in Mexico. Monk sat all the way down with us, wrapped his arms around his knees. My dad said it's made up of so much steel that by the time they finish painting all the way to the end, they have to start right back at the beginning again. We all stared up at the giant bridge, Rondell pointing at it because who knows why, and then Mong said, a lot of people commit suicide off of it too. Yeah, I said. Mong nodded. It's so high, the impact of hitting the water mostly kills them, but if it doesn't, they just drown anyway. Tough way to go, man, I said, glancing at Mong. Even mellow Mong was morbid as hell. You think so? He said. Hell yeah, man. Jumping off a damn bridge? Mong turned to look at me. How would you do it? I shrugged. Maybe knock down a bunch of pills, gas up the car while it's still in the garage and take a snooze. Something that wasn't all messy. I wouldn't do it at all, Rondell said. My Auntie Raina told me people who kill themselves can't make it to the kingdom of heaven. You ain't exactly a shoo-in either way, I said, tossing a stick toward the tide. What you mean, Rondell said again. If you haven't noticed, that's pretty much all Rondell ever says to anybody. What you mean, Mexico? What you mean, Mong? That shit's actually mad annoying. I shook my head, said, forget it, man. I think dying in the water is perfect, Mong said. I guess you ain't never heard of no sharks. Mong stayed staring at the bridge, this far-off look in his eyes. He probably didn't even hear what I just said. Maybe I'd take pills too, Rondell said. I mean, if I really had to do it, so I could just go to sleep forever and ever. I turned to look at Rondell for a minute. Sometimes when you catch the dude thinking, he almost looks like an innocent little kid, like he couldn't hurt a fly. I'm serious. Once you get past how big and strong he is, I mean. And that I only know him from juvie and the lighthouse. Nah, Rondo, I said, picking up another stick and tapping it against my knee. You're better off just listening to your auntie, man. Rondell looked at me, said, What you mean, Mexico? I smiled and stayed looking at him, wondering if he could tell that for once in my group home life I actually meant what I just said.